today we're going to talk about a strategy for downsizing. What if you're downsizing? You want to move into probably what's going to be your last home. You've kind of reached that retirement age and you don't need as much house. You just want a different house than what you've had before and you want to downsize into that house. And how do you do that? How do you do that in a market where inventory is pretty low? Across the nation, inventory is pretty low. Certainly in my market here in Washington State, King County, Snow County, inventory is pretty low, and you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you have sold the house and now you either have to move twice, move all your stuff, store it somewhere, live in an apartment or some other temporary living situation and until you find the new house, or force yourself to really rush in a market where rushing is just not really a good option, right? There's just not a ton of inventory, so you want to have time. You want to be able to take that time, find the right house, buy it, and then sell and move. And that's really what this strategy is about. So how do you do that? And of course, there's going to be very different specifics in every situation. There's a million different scenarios. Please reach out to me. Go to clevelandstreet.com. Happy to chat through your scenario. I'm licensed in Washington and Idaho. Happy to help you find someone that is licensed in your market if you're not in mine. Okay, so in this situation, we have someone who has a house that's worth $900,000. And they have a small mortgage balance, $120,000 on that mortgage balance, and so their equity is $780,000. But this is before selling cost. Here we're going to say 10% selling cost. That's probably a pretty conservative number in most markets. Usually a realtor's full cost is going to be about 6%, and then in our market we have excise tax between 1.5% and sometimes significantly higher than that, depending on how much your house cost or is worth, and then you have a few other title and other costs. So this is pretty conservative. But let's say that you're sitting on about $690,000 net equity. And then here's your current situation. On your mortgage, you've got a payment of $1,800 a month, and you're paying $500 a month in taxes and insurance. So you're all in at $2,300, and you really want to get to the point where you're downsizing, and you've moved into a house that is of less cost. You end up with no mortgage, and really you're just covering your taxes and insurance. Now this applies whether or not that's your specific goal or not. This applies even if you want to go into a bigger house or a same size house. These principles are going to be very similar. But this is where you are right now. We kind of start here right now. On this next screen, we're going to talk about, okay, this is an interim step. Now in this interim step, you're going to have two houses. And so how do you do that? How in the world are you going to buy a second house while currently owning your first house and make that work? And especially when, in this situation specifically, we're talking about people in retirement, retirement age, retirement income. These aren't necessarily your super uber high earning years. And so you're looking to kind of slow down the expenditure, but this is an interim step. And this interim step, you're going to have two houses. So how do we do that? How do we accomplish it? How do we qualify for it? And then how do we cash flow it during that time when we have two houses? And then where do we end up? Which is really the goal, kind of where do we end up? So here again, we have the old house. In this column 1, we have the old house. But notice we've added something new. We've added this HELOC balance. Now HELOC is short for home equity line of credit. And a home equity line of credit is just a revolving line of credit. It's a second mortgage on your house. Most banks, credit unions will do this for you. I have another video in my Mortgage Mastery Theater that is specifically about how to shop for one. Feel free to call me if you just want kind of the short version of that, but you can also go and watch that. There are some things that are important to know when you're shopping for a home equity line of credit, but they should be pretty easy to get. And so what you want to do is right now, because you're already thinking about this, go and get this home equity line of credit and get it in place. And the reason you can do it now is because you're not paying interest on a home equity line of credit until you draw. A home equity line of credit is a revolving credit line, which means you can draw it, pay it back, draw it, pay it back, and they only charge you interest when you've drawn on it. And so go get a home equity line of credit, get it as basically as large as they'll allow you, because basically what you're doing here is you're getting an advance on the equity of this home. And you're going to use the equity on this home to buy the next house anyway. And so that's what this is going to facilitate. It gives you cash to facilitate the purchase of the next home during that interim step when some or all or a good portion of your equity on the old home is still locked up in that home. You haven't sold it yet. But you can tap into that with a home equity line of credit. It gives you the liquidity that you need. So you go and get this. You're still left with $480,000 in equity there. You shouldn't have to pay much, if anything, to get that home equity line of credit. And down here is kind of where your new situation is with your primary residence, your old house. You've still got the $1,800 payment on your mortgage that you had already. Now you've added a home equity line of credit. We're doing this video in June of 2023. The Fed's been increasing interest rates on the Fed funds rates, which directly impacts home equity line of credit rates. So we're about 8.5% right now. Now, interest only is typically what's required on a revolving line of credit. You don't have to pay principal. You're going to pay the principal off when you sell the old house. So you get a $300,000 home equity line of credit. You're going to pay about $25, $50 a month once you draw it. And remember, you're only going to draw this when you buy the new house. At closing on the new house, you're going to take this draw and you're going to apply it to the purchase of the new house. And you're going to have for this period of time 2 mortgages, actually potentially 3 mortgages, and I'll show you that here. And so you've got your $1,800 from your first mortgage, you've got your $2,550 from your HELOC, and you've still got your taxes and insurance. So here's your $4,800 and $50 a month payment on the old house. But now you're going to add a second house to that. Now we're downsizing. Remember, we're going from 900 to 650. And again, your situation is going to be different. There's 1,000 million different scenarios that we would look at here. But we're going to take this, and it's a $650,000 house that we're buying. Now we have to finance this. You're not sitting on a $650,000 pile of cash. Maybe you are, and if so, great. Then much of this video is probably moot for you. But if you're not, then you're going to buy a house for $650,000, but you don't have that much cash sitting around. You've just gotten a $300,000 home equity line of credit on your old home. Now again, I would get this as big as they'll let you get it. Typically, on a home equity line of credit, they're going to cap you out at about 80%. Now lenders will go over that, but they're going to cap you out at about 80% of the value of your house, of the old house. And then they're going to subtract from that any existing mortgages and then give you the rest in a home equity line of credit subject to some absolute cap. In our market, a lot of these banks won't go over $500,000. But here you've got this $300,000 line of credit. You're going to buy a $650,000 house, so you still need to borrow on the new house too. So you're going to take a $350,000 loan on the new house, and of course you'll have equity in the new house of $300,000 at that point. Your mortgage on the new house is $2,200 a month, plus your taxes and insurance. And so your all-in on the new house is going to be $2,600. Now, for a period of time, and this is kind of what really scares people, right? This is, that's I'm not telling you shouldn't, be cautious about this and be aware of the fact that for a period of time, while you own these 2 houses and 3 mortgages, you've got your first mortgage on the old house, you've got your HELOC on the old house, and you've got your first mortgage on the new house. For a period of time, you've got 3 mortgages, and you've got 2 houses, taxes and insurance and whatnot. Your overall carrying cost is about $7,500 a month. So 2 things need to be considered here that you're immediately going to be concerned with. One is, how am I going to pay for that, right? I'm on my retirement income. How am I going to pay for that? And this is part of where this comes in. You don't necessarily have to tap in. You can use the equity in your old house to cover that transition period. And depending on your market, now you should talk to a realtor very seriously ahead of time, someone you trust and know and like, and can give you an honest opinion about, okay, what price point does this house need to go for, and how long should it take to sell at that price point? Now we're in a climate right now, and in my market here in Bothell, Washington in general, a lot of these markets where there's not a lot of inventory. So houses that are reasonably priced are selling really fast. So hopefully this can be a very compressed period of time, but you need to find someone who you trust, who can give you an accurate value and an accurate estimate of time. How long is that going to be? Because that's really the period of time where you're going to have these 3 mortgages and you're going to need to cover this cost. And so one of the ways that you can handle this, obviously you have some savings. You should look at this as, no, not I'm going into a housing cost situation where my housing costs are $7,500 a month. No, you're buying a new house, and part of the cost of that new house is going to be this 2 or 3 or 4 month period of time where you have a higher loan amount, a higher debt service cost, and you're going to have to factor that in to the use of the equity on the old house. And so, maybe instead of $300,000, you get a $350,000 line of credit. So you have $50,000 just sitting there to be able to supplement your cash flow during this period of time. But the other question then is, not only how am I going to cash flow this $7,450 a month, but how am I going to qualify for that? We looked over here and we said, okay, my retirement income, Social Security, et cetera, is $5,000 a month. Let's say that's where you are, husband and wife, This is your total retirement income. This is what you plan to live off of. And so in order to qualify, you're short $10,000 a month. And this is kind of one of where, where the underwriting guidelines and nuances come into play. Because basically, if you are sitting on any kind of a self-directed retirement account, now, like an IRA, it can be a Seth IRA, a Roth IRA, a rollover IRA, an inherited IRA, any of those types of retirement accounts that self-direct, that you can go to the custodian and say, I want to change my monthly draw, I want it to be X. And so as you can go to them and say, look, I need to qualify for this loan, and for a period of time, I'm going to own 2 houses. And so I need to qualify. In order to qualify, I need $15,000 a month income. Right now I'm making 5 between all my other sources. I'm 10 short. Basically, the way underwriting guidelines work, you can go to that custodian and say, I want to establish a standing order for $10,000 a month draw from this retirement account. And you only have to take 1 draw out of that. As soon as you close on the purchase of the new home, you've taken 1 draw out of this account that's been calculated to qualify for the loan. And then you can go right after you close on the new loan and you can tell them, okay, discontinue that draw. I no longer want to do that. But in the interim, you have to just set up and say, okay, I want a standing order of indefinite duration of $10,000 a month. And as long as you can sustain that from all your IRAs, this can be husband and wife combined, can be multiple IRAs of your own combined, as long as you can sustain that for 36 months, then that income can be used for qualifying purposes. And so, you take that shortfall times 36 months, it's about $360,000. So as long as you are sitting on an IRA of about $360,000, then you can use this to qualify. Now, let's see where we get to when we get to where we want to get to, which is, okay, we've bought the new house and we've sold the old house. So the old house, let's say our estimate was right. It was worth $900 and it sold for $900. We pay off the first mortgage. We pay off the HELOC. We have selling costs of about 10%. Remember, that's probably pretty conservative. And so we have $390 cash in your pocket after the sale of the old one. You had a $350,000 mortgage. Remember that we used to buy the new house. We bought this new house. We had to get a $350,000 mortgage on that house. So we're going to pay that off. And we've got $40,000 left over. Now, this can be used to restore the IRA. If you had to take out a draw of $10,000 a month and you wanted to restore that, talk to your advisors, of course. Don't listen to me, or get specific advice from your advisors about, hey, this is my plan. I plan to take this out. If you're planning to roll it back in, then make sure that they're okay with that. That fits in their overall plan. Or if you plan just to keep that out, maybe that meets your required minimum distribution requirement that you're going to do anyway. But do talk to them. But basically, you've got $40,000 left over. You've paid off all the debts from your old house, and now you're sitting on a debt-free house of $650,000. You've downsized. You've got $40,000 cash left over. Maybe you use that to restore some of that interim cost, and you've got a $400 a month payment for taxes and insurance. And you're into that phase where you've taken your time, because you could buy first. You've got the HELOC in place early on, and then you're just shopping and you're waiting for that right house and right circumstance to show itself, and then you buy that because you've had the time in the market, the patience to go find the right house. And this is how you got there. You got there through using the equity in the old house in advance, qualifying through taking advantage of the way the underwriting guidelines are written, and then paying off everything and getting to where you want it to be when it's all said and done. Hope this helps. Feel free to give me a call. Again, go to clevelandstreet.com, schedule a call with me. Even if you're not in my market, Washington and Idaho, happy to connect you with somebody else, and happy just to talk to you through your specific situation to kind of make sure that answer any questions you have, on a preliminary basis. So please do like or subscribe, make comments in the comment section of my video. That really helps my channel grow. Thanks so much.